Lord God, thank you for giving us this opportunity to gather together around your word, to consider how you have given us opportunity to be your witness in the world. You've given us the privilege and the joy, not only of being your children, but having opportunity to share it. As we look at guidance from your word today, help us to consider how each of us has our own mission field, how we each have opportunities to invite others to come and hear about you and to demonstrate you in their lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so this isn't ideal because I'm picking one of the sessions that I thought would be a decent standalone, but there is some, I mean, the whole seminar works together, and this is part of the way in, so you guys have missed a little bit of it, but at the same time, I figured that this one would be, if you had a preview of this one, it would be less less harmful, because there are a couple of things that you kind of got to experience in the seminar in order to get the gist of it. And so if we do this one, I think this will be good, kind of give you an idea of how the thing works. And so the concept of the whole thing is working on thought patterns. You know, we have thought patterns, we have ways that we think about things that are kind of autopilot. We don't really even think that that's how we think about things because we're so used to thinking about things that way. And when it comes to outreach, you know, welcoming someone into our congregation, you know, we're used to the way things are, and they seem fine by us. But to fresh eyes, that might sound, you know, whatever it is, might be something that's a little bothersome or disturbing or less.
Pastor, we can't hear you anymore.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Internet connection is unstable.
Yeah.
Good.
That's not a good thing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, just now. We haven't been able to hear you for the
Okay.
last
Joe's,
minute.
I can't hear you, Joe. Awesome. Okay, so we're doing, you heard the intro, kind of the background of what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to start with a little thought exercise. We're going to look at a picture of someone's idea for a new wheelbarrow, and I want you to write down at least 5 items there. You can write down more than 5, but at least 5. And I want you to write down, you know, you look at the picture, this is what I notice, this is what I observe when you're looking at this picture of a new
Hey, Pastor, it looks like the room went back on mute.
Issues with technology or normally?
It's kind of iffy sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, you guys hear me?
Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it's active.
All right. Okay. So, who will share? What observations did you come up with?
I came up that it looks kind of small, that it doesn't have much capacity.
Okay. Small, not much capacity. What else?
Well, the singular front wheel is still there.
Okay. It's got a singular front wheel.
Go ahead, Robert. What were you thinking?
Light, made out of plastic.
Okay, made out of plastic, lightweight.
Robert? Were you going to share one?
Apart. Wheelbarrows are put together, they don't come apart.
Okay, so it comes with.
It seems to me that it solves a lot of the problems with wheelbarrows. Like,
Recording in progress.
Maybe I brought Macmillan's technology problems with me.
Yeah. So,
Just like seminary on Zoom. Just like seminary on Zoom.
okay. Can you hear me now?
yep, I can hear you great.
Okay. So we're going to use my computer audio instead of the room. All right. So did you guys hear the things that were said? We've got lightweight. It comes apart, small capacity. Give me some other things on your list.
It solves a lot of the disadvantages of wheelbarrows. Like, you don't have to lift it to move things around. Like, if you've got a back problem, you can push this or pull it, but you don't necessarily have to like lift and push at the same time.
Okay.
It looks like it collapses. Like, you might be able to store the orange part inside the gray part, so it takes less space.
Okay. Joe, you got anything?
It looks new and high tech, therefore I don't like it.
This is called a contemporary wheelbarrow. That's what all the other churches are using.
Okay. That's kind of a wide variety of observations about it. But what I want you to do now is go through your list and put a plus by every one of those observations you made that was positive. You know, it's got this, here's an advantage. Put a minus sign by every one of those that was negative. You know, it doesn't have the handles, or it doesn't have whatever. And then, or I don't like it, that would probably be a negative one. And then put a 0 by something that's neutral. You know, it's gray or orange. All right, so show of hands, who had the majority of positive? How about majority negative? Majority neutral?
I think I had 3 pluses, 2 minuses.
Okay. So then Joe, yours was neutral? Okay. All right, which is interesting. You know, that's you guys are a very positive group. The average on this exercise is 10% of people have mostly positive comments. The huge majority would be neutral or would be negative. Huge majority would be negative. 10% have majority positive and neutral. So, you know, normally you look at something and you say, oh, this isn't what's going to work. So now here's a question to think about. When, if I can advance my slide. There we go. When asked to consider a new, unfamiliar, or unproven idea, what can be our reaction?
I mean, I think the easiest reaction is to immediately sort of reject the idea, since it's uncharted territory. We've done certain things a certain way for a long time, and if they seem to be working, why change course?
Okay. Yeah, I've got a wheelbarrow that works just fine. Okay.
I think we tend to evaluate the I think we tend to evaluate the obvious drawbacks of the new thing against how do I say it? Like we notice the things that seem really bad about the new thing without necessarily saying, if we were starting from zero and choosing between what we have and this alternative, would we choose what we have? You know, like the faults of the new thing become much more obvious and the benefits of the existing thing become amplified.
Okay. Yeah, that's extremely perceptive. That it's really easy to rush to that judgment right away. Let me show you some quotes. You've probably seen things like this before. So this is Steve Ballmer, who is the Microsoft CEO. He smart guy, apparently. He's worth $80 billion. He owns the LA Clippers. He things have done all right for him. But at one point, here's his quote: "There's no chance that the iPhone is going to get any significant market share. No chance." If he had thought a little differently about that 80 billion might be more, right? How about this one? This is Mike Lazaridis. I'm not sure how you say his name, but founder of BlackBerry, successful guy. The most exciting mobile trend is full QWERTY keyboards. I'm sorry, it really is. I'm not making this up. And I actually was in my shed yesterday getting a tool I needed, and I have an old BlackBerry. It was a hand-me-down from someone that I used for a couple of years here, shortly after I moved here, with the full QWERTY keyboard. And when I came across it recently, I couldn't throw it away, so I just stuck it in my shed, which is kind of my junk drawer. But I actually saw it. That's the first time I've seen a full QWERTY keyboard on a phone in years and years and years. This one. This is John Rubinstein, the brains behind the iPod. And at one point, he was CEO of Palm. So he was a smart guy. He knew what was going on. And for some reason, there we go. There it popped up now. He said, "Is there a toaster that also knows how to brew coffee? There is no such combined device because it would not make anything better than an individual toaster or a coffee machine. It works the same way with the iPod, the digital camera, or mobile phone. It's important to have specialized devices." How many of us even still have a digital camera that's just a digital camera, or a music player that's not also a phone? So it's really easy to look at something new and say, nope, that won't work. And here are the reasons. Here's another group of observations. That's oh, come on. It's on my screen. Are you guys seeing it yet? Well, I'll just read them. You are, okay. "That's a very interesting wheelbarrow. The handle comes right off. Hey, that's a neat wheelbarrow. You put stuff in it and close it up like a pop bottle. Yeah, if you're moving sand to your sandbox, you couldn't tip over and spill stuff because the sand is all inside. Anyone want to guess who said those?" Looks like Robert has a guess.
Did you have a guess?
No.
Oh,
But-
okay.
but I have something to say.
go ahead.
It's that if you needed to mix something like food, you could mix it up in that wheelbarrow.
Oh, you could like mix it up while you
I'm
walk
not sure.
around.
I don't think it's a good idea anymore.
No, but like sometimes, like if you're making concrete, sometimes you need to mix sand and cement mix. And yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
that would help.
You could mix things without having to spill it. That's good.
Yeah. So Robert just gave a great demonstration of these were all kindergartners who gave these, and notice they all saw something that you don't normally think of. Like if I'm thinking of a wheelbarrow, I don't think of the need to mix food, but Robert's mind was saying, hey, here's a great idea. This is something that is a benefit that I hadn't even thought of as a possibility. And the point of the exercise is to demonstrate something about how we look at really everything, how we look at change. Why do you think it is that you expect kids to have responses like this?
I think that it seems to me one of the hard things about being a kid and one of the opportunities is that like everything is so well defined. Like it seems like you can do anything, but it also seems like everything has a reason why it is the way it is. And so it's this constant mix of like trying to understand why something works the way it does, while also still believing that you can go and do something and have a, like have an impact. I'm suddenly getting really cynical as I talk.
You adult.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But yeah, like you can go out there and you can just design a thing and do a thing and make it, and like everything, it's just a question of why wouldn't we do it the best way, and like here's a way that would be really good. And you get older and you start to say, yeah, but I tried that once, that wouldn't work. People have done that before. You burn your hand enough doing a certain type of job and you learn to either wear gloves or not do that job anymore. And anyway, yeah, it's like the tension between accumulated experience and recognizing opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, that we have the way that things have gone, the experiences we've seen have developed some patterns through our brain, the way our brains function. This works, so I'm gonna go on this path. And as you talk about changing thought patterns, someone gives you some great idea and you go there and you go along that path. But if you don't continue on that path or regularly take that path, it grows back over again. And so we get into these ruts, and kids don't have the years and years of experience that tell them this won't work or no way on that. And so really, coming at it with that curiosity mindset instead of I think, Peter, you first said the evaluating mindset. We tend to evaluate, we judge it before seeing all the possible benefits. So let's try looking at the wheelbarrow again. This time, instead of your job, and first time I didn't tell you your job was to judge it or evaluate it. But I think at least that's where my mind normally goes. How is this going to work? I don't know if it's going to work that well. But now come at it with that curious mindset. And so I'm just going to put the picture up and I want you to ask questions. I will answer your questions. You ask me questions about this wheelbarrow. Robert.
It's just that when you said kids are curious, I was being curious by opening a pencil box and seeing if there was a black.
You were being curious.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a
but
good
it was
question.
right as she was saying it.
Yeah. What
Awesome.
do you have a question about the wheelbarrow? I have questions.
Let's hear 'em.
Okay, so my question is this something that people are using?
Yes.
Is it something you can buy at a store?
Yes,
Is it a special store in a special place?
in a special place.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Robert.
Why does it have that hole in the side?
Oh, yeah.
You mean where it's opened up, or the one?
There's a little red cap
the little
looking
red
thing
hole?
on the orange thing.
That is one of the ways that you can fill it. If you don't want to open it up like you see in the other picture, you could also fill it with that.
Mm.
Yes, Robert.
It's another thing because if you were trying to get concrete mixed and poured out, you could use that hole to get it out.
You can also use the hole to get the contents out. Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
How much does it
And that's
weigh?
another problem for cooking.
How much does it weigh? It weighs, it's very lightweight because it's made of plastic.
Like plastic?
Yep, it's much lighter than a traditional wheelbarrow.
Can I have it shipped by Amazon? How much does it cost?
I don't know if it can be shipped by Amazon. Normally they are shipped a great quantity of them to a particular area.
What is that particular
And the
area?
cost?
Is this Legos?
It's not Legos. It's a particular area would be Africa. A lot of interior Africa.
Okay, so if it's transporting water, I can see that. But I need to see a demonstration before I bought this thing because I don't see the-
Questions.
I'll ask
How
you
much does it cost?
How much does it cost? I'll say that this reduces the cost significantly. This is actually a redesign, and this reduces the cost significantly because one of the biggest parts of the cost was the shipping.
Oh, maybe the internet cut out. How much does it cost?
It's not expensive. It costs less than a traditional wheelbarrow.
What is it replacing? What object is it replacing in interior Africa?
It's replacing a bucket.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Is there a significance to the two colors? Like, is there a reason they're different colors?
No.
Wait, I think there is.
Do you think there is?
Yeah, it's so that you can open it without having a problem. Because if the other one was great, I think you would have a harder time.
You're right.
So that you can see where the separation is better? Yeah?
So it's better for usability, but it doesn't have to be any particular color. Okay.
Does it come with replacement paper clips?
That's not a paper clip. That's a steel formed shaped handle.
Thinks he wants to know how long it's gonna take to get the replacement parts.
How long is it going to take to get the replacement parts? I do not know that one. But
Does
good
the top screw on or snap on or something else?
It screws on and there's an O-ring in there to seal.
So it's watertight.
It is watertight.
Huh. Is the part with the stripes, is it like I guess, is the exterior smooth or is there a roughness to it? Like, would it get traction going up a hill?
That's what those grooves are for traction.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Any other questions? I think you guys kind of figured out use for it. But I'm going to move on to the next slide. So Vicar asked, what's it replacing? This. In 30% of Africa, they do not have running water. It is the job of quite often the women and children to walk to the water source and bring it back, as far as 3 miles or more one way. And when you've got a 5-gallon bucket, no one asked about the dimensions or how much it carried. 24 gallons. So if you've got a 5-gallon bucket, And because of the weight of it, even with the water, because it's the wheelbarrow thing and you push or pull it, and the ground is doing a lot of the work, it is the equivalent amount of energy as carrying a 2.5 gallon bucket. So you've got suddenly 5 times as much water with less effort, and these women are suddenly having huge amounts of time back in their day. They're able to grow more things in their gardens because they can even bring some water for that. You look at, this is the initial version of it. You were looking at a prototype for a redesign because shipping these was pretty expensive because they took up a lot of space. So that one that you were looking at was the redesign idea that could come apart and ship a whole lot easier. But anyway, so this is some pictures of, or these are some pictures of the hippo roller in use. You see that one lady with the bucket on her head looking at it. I think she might be a little bit of envy there. But what's that? Oh, here. Now, why won't you show me that? You guys can see the pictures at home, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Richard, you see it there? Okay. Yeah, so you think about that. I mean, this is something that has very really changed lives, and it would be real easy to look at it and say, no, worthless. But it's been a huge benefit, a huge blessing for a whole lot of people.
It's interesting to me because, like, I know this was intentional, but when you introduced it, you said, here is a new wheelbarrow. And like, it's not being used as a wheelbarrow, it's being used as a water transport system, which they used to use a wheelbarrow for sometimes, Yeah. And so just speaking again to that quality of the way we introduce the thing, like, what is it we're trying to do with this in the first place, really shapes how we react to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, they classify it, they call it a wheelbarrow. So I use that. I was very intentional not to ask you to evaluate it or to tell me what you think about it. I said, tell me what you observe, tell me what you notice. But yeah, it's a good point. So, we're talking about looking at something. Come on. Let's advance that slide. There we go. And there are different ways to come at something. When something is judgmental, or when something is, or if we come at it with a judgmental view, or with a curious view. So let's work through the left side first. What does it sound like if we evaluate things from a judgmental standpoint? Give me some examples of what that sounds like.
It sounds terrible all the time.
I mean, we could judge it and say, oh, that looks great. We go with that. That would also be a judgment. But normally, what does it sound like? What statements?
It's a lot of, it can't, this person can't, it's
Okay.
not possible.
Okay, not possible.
It won't work.
Won't work.
So I was thinking about this, given that we are at a men's Bible study. All right, just a second, I'm talking. I think there is a pattern of masculinity that I don't know if it's universal, but it's certainly present in our culture, that we see ourselves as men oftentimes having to fill this role. It's like someone comes to us, and the reason you're coming to me is because I can tell you the answer to this problem.
Yeah.
Thank you for submitting your design. It is terrible. You're welcome. Or, that's amazing. Great. Thank you. But
we're the judges.
Say again.
We're the judges.
Yeah, right. And like coupled with that, there's like a sense of authority or responsibility or something else too. Like, but that we see ourselves as sitting in this spot of like things are coming to us, we're doing the evaluation, we're the ones making the call, but we're yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna stop talking there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so you what does it look like? Here's why that won't work. We've tried that before. Even if we wanted to, here's what you need to understand, but, and it ultimately just comes down to no, maybe. What does it sound like if you come at it from a curious standpoint? Give me some examples of how you,
Explain to me what you're thinking.
okay. Yeah, why did you do it this way? Yeah,
How does it work, or how does this thing work?
okay. Any others?
It might be less wear and tear on your neck since you don't have to tote a bucket on your head.
Yeah, the hippo roller, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, you guys, why do you want to do this? You know, I hadn't thought about it that way before. Wow, that would be a big deal. You know, we should talk with so-and-so. They've done something like that. What if? You know, it's those questions. Tell me more.
I think like judgmental sort of stops the conversation, and curious opens the door for more conversation. I think
Okay.
just like at the core, if you cast a judgment, you're either setting up a situation where it's going to be butting heads or stop conversation, but curiosity gives you the opportunity to work together a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. Allows you to work together, allows you to learn from each other instead of the assumption that I know the right answer. Yeah. So I'm going to put a statement up, and I'm going to ask you to, by a show of hands, tell me if you agree with this statement. So as soon as you see it, you got to make your decision whether you agree with it. People don't like change. Okay, so we've got everybody but Peter agreeing with that statement. I feel like Peter's got something in mind on this one.
And that's exactly why we don't like Peter.
But at least it's the way you've always felt. Well, it's funny because my first instinct when you flashed the slide earlier was I started trying to think of all the reasons I disagreed with it. Which is itself kind of funny in the judgmental conversation earlier. But I think that people who don't like change don't like change. But there are lots of people who do like change, and I think that we all like. The question is, where do we like change? You know, like when you plant a garden, you expect it to grow. I have been most disappointed in my garden when it fails to change. You know, but what people don't like, I mean, bringing COVID into this, you know, I think part of what's been so hard for people with that has been the rules are changing, the what people know is changing, and like the feeling of I don't know what's going to change and I don't know how it's going to impact me, and the loss of agency and autonomy that comes with that. So yeah.
Yeah. So you rolled this right on to the next slide. You know, coronavirus, how many people you think would like that change? I have a feeling when you think of the death and sickness and limitations and all of that, there'd be a good number of hands saying, no, I don't like that one. How about new shoes? Show of hands. Who likes the change to new shoes? Who does not like the change to new shoes? You know, some might say, hey, you got to break them in and they hurt. But yeah, some people like, some people don't. How about a new smartphone? Who likes the change when you get a new smartphone? And then there are some that would say, yeah, but I got to relearn it. I just want to stick with my, Samsung 7 or whatever it is. How about getting married? How Hopefully, well, none of the wives are here.
Like
But,
starting now, getting married again.
No, that change in your life, was that a
Means
change
being born again.
Yeah, what is Robert?
yeah, or having a baby. Most people would say, yeah, like now, of course, getting married, there's a lot of gunk that goes into that, planning the wedding and all of that. But everybody says, well, yeah, I like that change. Or having a baby, well, that means I don't sleep for a while and I got to change diapers and things like that. But of course, everybody says, oh, I like that change. Why? What's the factor that determines whether we like a change or not?
Well, I think that many of those things there are things that we have some level of choice in making.
Okay.
Like maybe we are being bought new shoes, maybe we are picking out new shoes ourselves. But most of those things we have some level of involvement in and decision
Oops,
about.
stepped on blocks.
Okay, it's okay, Robert.
Yeah. But when my wife throws away my perfectly comfortable and wonderfully worn in shoes and there are new ones there, oh boy. Thankfully now the old ones just get moved outside so they don't have to get thrown away right away. And that way I can still, right, I put them in my junk shed. No, but yeah, so our choice has something to do with it. What else?
Hopefully it's gonna have a positive impact on you.
Okay, is it going to have a positive impact? Maybe to phrase that another way, is it worth it? Right? Yeah, doing all the planning for a wedding, a pain, but is it worth it? Yes. There's some difficulties with having a baby, but is it worth it?
I think there's also uncertainty, like how much uncertainty is there and what's the impact of that uncertainty?
Okay, yeah. I don't like uncertainty, so yeah, good point. So yeah, so looking at changes and then asking, is it worth it, kind of leads into the passage that this whole section is based on, from 1 Corinthians 9. Can I get a volunteer to read that? Go ahead.
I'll do it. Let's see here. Though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law I became like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but I am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak I became weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings.
Okay, thank you. So what's motivating Paul to make these changes he talks about?
To win those under the law.
Okay, to win some, to save souls, right? I mean, talk about worth it. And so what was he willing to change?
Everything but rejecting God's law.
Okay. Yeah, he's still under Christ's law. Think about that. What do you understand by that? What's Christ's law? What are we talking about there? He says, I myself am not under the law. He says, but I'm not free from God's law. I'm under Christ's law. Someone explain that.
It's like the new covenant.
Not just the Jewish people, but the Gentiles also.
Okay.
Christ came for everybody,
Okay.
not just for a certain class of people.
Right. So if I don't know if everybody heard that, Richard said, sharing it not just with the Jewish people, but also with the Gentiles. Christ came, and I think Joe was starting to say something about the new covenant. Christ came, fulfilled that Old Testament Jewish law, and yet has given us, the law of love, you might say, right? My life isn't about keeping these laws. but because of Christ, I want to love. So Paul says, yeah, I'll change everything that doesn't back away from Christ. Good. So how should this impact the way we approach change relative to outreach? You know, the title of this whole seminar is Everyone Outreach. You know, talking about ways to have every individual be reaching out in their personal lives, at home, at work, etc. How should this impact the way we approach change relative to outreach? When you think about your mindset toward it.
As long as we're not changing the gospel, I mean, it's sort of a why wouldn't I want to change to help someone better understand Christ's love for me and Christ's love for them.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I think the pandemic's really shut back on outreach programs, one-to-one, face-to-face contact with people,
Okay.
knocking on doors and things. I think
Yeah.
it's really made it hard. A lot of people, and I myself, I don't know, I came to church Sunday and two Emilys had to go back because they had contacted COVID. They were around a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just seemed like it's really impacted it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Fewer face-to-face conversations. So how does this impact the way we approach it? This idea of, is it worth it?
So I've been thinking a lot lately about the importance of values and values alignment. And to be clear, I'm not saying a particular set of values, although I know we here share that. But the fact that so much of what we encounter in the world, it may even call itself values driven, but is more focused on like operational continuity. And then maybe a value is bolted onto that. And the thing what this does for us, this verse, what it speaks to, is it is aligning all of our actions with the core value we have as Christians, which is Christ. And it's living for Christ, but also bringing others to Christ, like sharing the gospel. And so it would be very easy to look at this and be like, okay, yes, I should be more open to change. And that's like, yes, that's a lesson. But the biggest thing is aligning ourselves in every dimension to drawing people to Christ. And it was one thing that I was really happy about. I think Joe was saying this at the council meeting the other night. He's like, look, if this will help get more people in church, I'll do it. If it won't help, I won't do it. You know, but like that's the thing I'm focused on, is like, how do I get people in church and hearing the word?
Yeah. Awesome. Let's look at a few more questions on this. So this results cone is something that comes up a few times in the seminar. You know, we're talking about an outreach culture, and the definition for culture, the shared thought habits that frame the way people behave and work together. And so throughout the seminar, you know, this particular module is talking about how we think about change. You know, what are our thought habits? Is my default to go right to, here's why it won't work, or is my default, let's talk about this. Is this something that is going to achieve the goal that we're all agreed on, right? I want to save souls. I want people to hear about that. So evaluating those thought habits, the thoughts, the way I think about something will naturally impact my behaviors, and then the results flow from that. So a few questions, and this will be, you guys get to share a little bit about our congregation with Vicar Bush. What changes has your congregation made for outreach? How were they received? And what thought habits might that be revealing? What changes have we made for outreach? What do you guys think of in that one?
I don't know if I'd say this is a change, like, I don't know if this is a change as such, but one thing that I believe is a change from other congregations or from other places I've seen this done is that we have allowed outreach to be a first class citizen. It's really easy for outreach to be something that happens after other stuff. And, for example, like member visits, I know that's something that Pastor has been interested in for a long time, but it's like our first priority is doing outreach. And so if other things have to slip because we're doing outreach, then the other things slip. And I think that, frankly, I think that's the hub on which a lot of the other outreach success we have here, where that comes from.
Okay. How do you feel that's been received? And what thought habits is that revealing?
I think most of the congregation is just fine. Like they see us doing it, but it's just like, this is what our church does.
Yeah.
I think
there's never really a change. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like it's just the way this church does it. But I will say for people who were at Sola Scriptura years ago, I know there were a group of folks who were really frustrated, sometimes angry, because like what they thought of as like core church function, especially with like in-reach member contact type of stuff, wasn't happening the same way. And like for them, it was all a sign of like church dysfunction that we weren't prioritizing that side of things.
Okay. Any other thoughts on what changes have been made?
I suppose I should say just that I do think that like in terms of the congregation and the community does seem very positive about the fact that we're doing this stuff. So I don't want to end on a sour note there. Like I think we made a good call there. Other changes, when we started doing soccer camp,
Okay.
we had been doing VBS. We talked about switching to doing soccer camp. I remember Joe's like, well, you're not taking my from my cold dead hands. You take my VBS. And so we decided to do both, and we didn't think we'd be able to make it work. And it felt really weird to have a program we were offering that people had to pay to come to, but turns out they're both effective programs. They both draw people in, and they draw different groups of people in.
And to Joe's credit, he also always helps out with soccer camp. So I don't think it was ever against a change. It was just don't stop something that God blesses.
Yeah. And don't kill VBS.
Right. Any other changes? I mean, we started a preschool, right? How did the congregation react to that change?
Everybody's talking, but I can't hear them.
That's the echo.
Oh, it's the echo?
Because I'm using my computer sound instead.
Right.
Yeah. So.
I think the preschool was well accepted at first, but then I think it pretty much changed into like a daycare for certain groups of people.
Okay. Yeah, the change to do it, and then the change to not do it, with for outreach. How can we better use our resources to yeah.
I just got thinking about that whole I remember that discussion when we were doing the preschool, and there was a period really early on where there was a lot of clear momentum and direction building.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember then we got to like the open forum and voters meeting stage, and suddenly there was a lot of criticism, maybe is the best word, but there was like a lot of fear being manifested about what are we going to do about this? Here's what happens when this happens. Okay, Robert, I'm talking. Okay. And anyway, like I don't mean it as there's nothing to do with whether that was good or bad, but that it was a case again where we took something that we had been doing in an exploratory way And then as we were wrapping it up, we transitioned into more of a judgmental mindset on it, I think. And I
Okay.
think that we would have had more success with the preschool had we focused on like drawing together, like, I don't know, there was a separation between the preschool team and the rest of the congregation that helped the launch but hindered the long-term effectiveness of the preschool, you know?
Okay.
Peter, so or to summarize, you sort of saying maybe now in the future, people potentially could be less receptive to new ideas just based on the way that things ended with the preschool?
I think what I'm thinking of there specifically is that there was a group of people who had done a tremendous amount of work and research, and they had solved a lot of problems, and they had in some cases solved problems that people in the congregation didn't know. And so as we were launching it, there was something of a breakdown with just like there were, you know, like there are people who come to voters meetings and there are people who come to other meetings. And there was I just remember a lot of things coming up about we need to make sure we do this and this and this that were all kind of last minute requirements being imposed on it. And that, I don't know, it hurt the momentum and it hurt the direction and it demoralized the preschool group because suddenly they had gone from thinking this is something we were all doing to suddenly feeling like the congregation was hostile to them about it. And I think the lesson is, as you're doing planning, just be really transparent and communicative and create intentional opportunities for the feedback to happen so that it becomes easier to say later on in the process, well, we've been through this part of it. I can share some resources. This really isn't the right forum to bring up that sort of a question. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah, I will say that, you know, from my perspective, our congregation has always been amazing at this. Oh, you want to try that? Okay, let's try that. Yeah. What are some of the changes that could help outreach that your congregation has talked about but hasn't done? I'm trying to think.
I mean, I think one of the biggest things is we have a recurring desire to get more people involved with the regular canvassing type work.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about it a lot, and we are constantly trying to figure out a way to get it to happen. But I wouldn't say that we have successfully changed on this, you know?
Yeah, yeah. The only change has been less people. Although this, you know, this summer we had some good numbers of canvassers, but yeah, it's not the percentage of the congregation going out on that kind of stuff that it once was, as congregations grown. And I think a big thing about this is to think about how we think about it, not necessarily what do we think. So to Peter's point on the discussions around the preschool, trying to keep that how we are thinking about it being so important. Am I remembering 1 Corinthians 9 there? Am I remembering the goal for which we're doing this? You know, the preschool is not designed to make money, but to share the good news. You know, charging for the soccer camp isn't designed to build up funds, but to give people that sense of value so that they do it. And then once they do it, they find out they get to hear about Jesus too. Yeah. So how about this one? What sense of urgency for the salvation of lost souls is present in your congregation's consideration of change to support outreach? Where do you guys feel we are on that one?
I've always felt we have a massive sense of urgency to share the gospel with people who don't know Jesus or are looking for Jesus or.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other thoughts?
I think sometimes we straddle a line a little bit on it, that like we feel that general urgency and then we translate that into activities we run to drive that or to fulfill that need. But that sometimes I think then our urgency translates to those particular events, you know? And so
Yeah.
like needing to build the Christmas float just right, or whatever else, right? And that insofar as the implementation is taking us away from the motivation, then that's not healthy in the long run.
Okay. Yeah. Remembering the reason for all the events and all the activity that's going on. Definitely important. And you know, part of it then, what sense of urgency do I feel for the people in my life that might not have that close relationship with Jesus? That idea of everyone, you know, in their own lives. And so, you know, this module was talking a lot about the congregation aspect, but then we apply it to ourselves as well. We don't really have time for the journaling, so that can be your homework. You know, in what ways do I approach change in our congregation? What idea might I want to reconsider? The I will statements, each of the segments of this thing, we end with writing down a statement or two. This is what I'm going to do as far as whatever the thing we're talking about. So when it comes to how I approach change, how I listen to ideas, I will blank. Anyone want to take a crack at an I will statement to close us off? I should have given you your 5 minutes to write, but I wanted to save the 5 minutes.
One thing I think going through this discussion, I hadn't really thought about, how do I say this? Like, I really like change and I really like novelty and such. And it hadn't really occurred to me before that wheelbarrow illustration that wasn't the way everyone felt.
Okay.
Like so like I think there's I guess the I will on this is I will like better consider other people's perspective on things. Like most of you have been on the council with me. Vicar will be there soon. But like something new comes up and I'm always like, yeah, that sounds great, let's do it, and my instinct is that everyone else is on the same page or will be eventually. So this, I don't know, I guess I will be more sympathetic or bring that to the foreground of my thoughts as I'm thinking things through in the future.
Awesome. Good. Let's close with prayer. Lord God, thank you for giving us this time to be together and to discuss change and how we view it. Help us to always come at it with the heart that Paul displayed in that passage, that we remember why, that we want to do everything possible for the salvation of souls. Bless us that we too may share in the blessings of that, as Paul said, that we get to see your work in powerful ways.
that we get to work together with one another in ways that are encouraging and building up. Strengthen us in your name. Amen.